There are moments in life when the room feels warm with conversation, yet one smile, too polished, too precise, cuts through the air with a chill you cannot ignore. The kind of smile that doesn't welcome you, but evaluates you. The kind that stretches across a face while the eyes remain cold, calculating, slightly narrowed as if measuring the distance between your eyes and their quiet resentment. And as that smile fades, what remains is a silence heavier than any insult spoken aloud. A silence that presses against your chest, that hangs in the space between people who pretend to be allies while wishing for your downfall. You've seen it before. The joke tossed into the air with just enough venom to sting, yet wrapped in the softness of humor so no one can call it cruelty. The subtle mockery delivered like a compliment. The quick glance exchanged between others when you enter the room. The kind that flickers with disdain before being replaced by careful politeness. And then there are the colder moments. The way someone's voice tightens when you mention something you're proud of. The way another suddenly loses the enthusiasm they had only seconds earlier. As if your success has reached into their chest and pressed against an old bruise. Sometimes it comes from people you once trusted. Friends who shrink your accomplishments so they can feel taller beside you. Other times it comes from colleagues who congratulate you with a tone so smooth it almost hides the jealousy trembling underneath. And then there are strangers, people who know nothing about you, yet find themselves irritated simply because your presence reminds them of what they have not built, not achieved, not become. In each of these situations, the hostility is subtle, but it is sharp. It is wrapped in courtesy, but it is corrosive. It is delivered quietly, but it reaches deep. And so you find yourself asking the questions that linger long after the moment ends. How does one respond to this kind of hatred? The kind that hides behind smiles and silence. The kind that wounds without ever declaring itself an enemy? Do you confront it and risk looking paranoid? Do you ignore it and allow it to fester in the shadows? Or is there a third path, one far more powerful than either resistance or retreat? This is where the Stoics offer a truth that feels almost paradoxical. The strength that disarms your enemies is not found in retaliation, but in mastery. It is the ability to keep your light steady while others try to darken it. It is the refusal to hand over your peace in exchange for their bitterness. And most of all, it is the quiet, unwavering commitment to live in such a way that their hatred corrodes them from the inside, while you continue to rise without ever lowering yourself to meet them. To hurt those who hate you in the Stoic sense is not to strike back. It is to walk a path so rooted in clarity, discipline, and integrity that their malice fails to reach you and instead collapses under its own weight. Before we move deeper, a small reminder: if the philosophy and the strength in these lessons resonate with you, consider joining the True Stoic Way by subscribing to the channel. It helps this message reach more people navigating the same quiet battles, and it supports the work of bringing clarity and resilience into a world that often rewards noise over wisdom. Now, with that grounding in place, let us step into the first principle, one that reveals why your calmness is the battlefield where their intentions unravel. Chapter 1. Never surrender your peace to those who hate you. Every insult you receive, no matter how carefully disguised or casually delivered, contains a hidden invitation. It asks you to step out of yourself. It asks you to abandon your composure. It asks you to trade your inner peace for the fleeting satisfaction of a reaction. Those who quietly dislike you rarely want a confrontation. Confrontation requires courage, and courage is something they don't possess in abundance. What they want is far simpler, far more manipulative. They want to lure you into fighting a battle they never had the spine to start openly. They will not strike you directly. They will slice at you with insinuations delivered as jokes, with harmless-sounding remarks that carry too much edge, with comments framed as concern but crafted to belittle you. Their words are never meant to hit you. They're meant to make you hit back. They are not trying to defeat you. They're trying to make you defeat yourself. Their entire strategy rests on the hope that you will lose your temper, raise your voice, or betray your own maturity. Because the moment you explode, the moment you react beyond reason, the moment your calm evaporates, they get exactly what they wanted: evidence that you are as unstable, insecure, or irrational as they've been whispering to others. This game of theirs is not new. It has existed in every workplace, every social circle, every family gathering. A provocation is thrown not with the force of a punch, but with the precision of a needle, small enough to dismiss, sharp enough to sting. They want you to flinch. They want you to snap. They want to watch your self-control burn so they can warm themselves with the ashes. Yet in the Stoic view, you are not required to participate. You can be the mountain in the storm, the structure that stands unshaken while wind roars and rain lashes its surface. The Stoics remind us that self-mastery is not a decoration worn for admiration. It is a battlefield where the only victory worth claiming is victory over your own impulses. As Epictetus wrote, "No one can harm you unless you first permit your mind to be disturbed." The true fight is never against the insult. The true fight is against the temptation to hand your serenity to someone who doesn't deserve it. Consider a moment like this, one that plays out every day in conference rooms and offices around the world. In a mid-sized tech company, during a weekly progress meeting, a man named Daniel presented the summary of his team's results. As he spoke, a colleague leaned back in his chair and remarked in a half-laughing, half-mocking tone, "Well, of course Daniel's numbers look good. He always manages to make even the smallest task sound like a breakthrough." The room grew still in the way rooms do when people sense the air is about to tighten. A few eyes shifted toward Daniel, quietly expecting him to defend himself, to counter the jab, to correct the disrespect. But Daniel only paused long enough to acknowledge that he had heard the remark, then offered a polite smile, neither sarcastic nor submissive, before returning to his notes and continuing his presentation. The meeting moved on. Though something subtle had shifted, the man who delivered the insult sank into a posture that suddenly looked less confident and more juvenile. The attendees who had anticipated an argument found themselves recalibrating their opinion, not of Daniel, but of the person who tried to undermine him. And Daniel, without raising his voice or asserting his worth, left the room with more respect than he had walked in with. His composure became his defense. His silence became his authority. Stoicism never denies that the insult hurts. The Stoics were not machines, and they never pretended that wounds do not bleed. But they understood something deeper. The pain of the moment is not what defines you. Your response to it does. Pain can be a blacksmith's fire, shaping the steel of your character, or it can be poison, weakening you from within. And silence, when chosen deliberately rather than out of fear, becomes a weapon sharper than any retort. The ancient fable of the lion and the barking dog captures this truth simply. The dog barks, yaps, growls, and leaps in circles around the lion, demanding attention, demanding reaction. But the lion does not stop to respond. It does not lower itself to reassure or intimidate. It simply keeps walking, because to the lion, the noise is just noise. Turning back would imply equality. Stoicism asks you to recognize when a barking dog is trying to provoke you into behaving like something other than the lion you are capable of becoming. And that is the essence of the first principle. Every provocation is a test of whether you are willing to sell your peace for a few seconds of emotional release, a test of whether you value the stillness of your inner world more than the satisfaction of correcting someone else's disrespect, a test of whether you understand that maintaining your composure is not weakness, but dominance over yourself. Refusing to play their game is not passive. It is not avoidance. It is a strategic and deeply stoic act of resistance. For those who are waiting for your collapse, nothing hurts them more than seeing you remain upright. For those who crave your outburst, nothing frustrates them more than your calm. And for those who want to watch you unravel, nothing wounds them more deeply than discovering that you will not hand them a single thread of your peace. Now that we've uncovered the nature of their provocations, we can move into the next truth. Why your calmness does more than protect you. It turns into a mirror that exposes their deepest insecurities. Chapter 2. Calmness is the mirror that exposes the manipulator. There is a particular discomfort that grows inside those who try to provoke you. The discomfort of seeing their chaos reflected back at them through your calmness. When someone throws hostility into the world, they expect to hear the echo of their own noise. They expect resistance, defensiveness, outrage, anything that proves their ability to disrupt you. What they do not expect, and what unsettles them more than any verbal counterattack, is your refusal to absorb their chaos. Imagine yourself as a stone wall carved by time, weather, and uncountable storms. Around you, the waves crash with wild force, insults disguised as advice, sharp remarks hidden in casual tones, subtle provocations delivered with calculated timing. These waves rise, strike, and retreat, only to rise again. Yet the wall remains unmoved. Its stillness is not passivity. It is power, because the waves live for the chance to reshape the stone, and when they fail, they return to the sea weaker than they arrived. This is the nature of calmness. It does not deny the existence of emotion, nor does it require that you bury the pain inflicted upon you. Instead, it demands that you refuse to let emotion seize the reins of your behavior. Calmness is not the absence of storms. It is the discipline to navigate them without surrendering control of your mind. Marcus Aurelius captured this truth with a clarity that has echoed through centuries. You have power over your mind, not outside events. The Stoics understood that the world is often unfair, unpredictable, and filled with people whose motivations are twisted by envy, bitterness, and insecurity. The wise person does not wait for the world to treat them kindly. They choose their response regardless of the world's behavior, and in that choice lies a form of strength that manipulative people cannot comprehend. There's a story that illustrates this with painful accuracy, and it unfolds more often than most of us realize. A man named Elias, a quiet but hardworking freelance designer, found himself targeted by a stranger online, someone who, for reasons Elias could never understand, decided to spread falsehoods about his work and character. Posts appeared accusing him of plagiarism, incompetence, arrogance, a series of attacks built entirely on fabrications. The comments soon filled with people eager to join the drama, and the digital flame grew brighter with each passing day. Friends urged him to fight back, to post a rebuttal, to expose the liar, to counter the accusations point by point. But Elias did not. He continued to work with his existing clients, delivered his projects with the same consistency, and showed up every day as if nothing had changed. He refused to add fuel to a fire that did not deserve to burn any brighter. Weeks passed. The rumors, deprived of new drama, began to fade like smoke without oxygen. Those who had joined the frenzy gradually lost interest, and eventually, the very account that started the accusations disappeared without explanation. The flame died not because Elias fought it, but because he refused to kneel before it. In choosing calmness over retaliation, he revealed something essential. Lies require your reaction to survive, but truth stands without applause. Calmness is often misunderstood as indifference, but the Stoics knew it is something far deeper. Think of a body of water. At the surface, the slightest breeze can create ripples that move quickly and uncontrollably. But below the surface, far beneath the reach of the wind, the water rests in a state of profound stillness. Calmness does not mean you are unaffected. It means that what touches the surface of your life does not have permission to disturb your depths. Pain may visit, but it does not become the captain of your ship. And while calmness is an internal discipline, its effects in the external world are unmistakable. People notice who panics and who remains composed. They notice who raises their voice and who chooses measured silence. Over time, the person who maintains calm becomes someone others instinctively trust, because composure signals stability, maturity, and quiet authority. This kind of authority doesn't demand obedience. It inspires it. It is the soft power that reshapes rooms without ever raising a hand. Calmness, then, becomes a flame you must protect with vigilance. In moments of conflict, it illuminates the path ahead. In moments of uncertainty, it keeps you from stumbling into decisions fueled by fear. And in moments when others wish to drag you into emotional chaos, it becomes a shield that allows their intentions to shatter against your restraint. Those who stay calm hold a form of power that cannot be replicated through aggression or manipulation. Even when they say nothing, they speak loudly. Even when they do nothing, they influence the outcome. And even when attacked, they remain the ones silently in control. Proof that calmness is not the absence of strength, but its purest expression. Now, having understood why your calmness disturbs those who wish to provoke you, we move into the next principle, the art of strategic indifference, the quiet refusal to let insults decide the direction of your life. Chapter 3, Stoic Indifference, not coldness, but freedom. There's a particular kind of insult that does not strike like an arrow, but hangs in the air like a net, wide, subtle, quietly waiting for you to step directly into it. Manipulative people do not rely on direct confrontation. They rely on your instinct to defend yourself. They craft comments that are vague enough to deny, yet sharp enough to provoke. And then they wait, not for your understanding, but for your reaction. Because the moment you react in anger or frustration, the net tightens. You are caught not by the insult itself, but by your decision to engage with it. Stoic indifference begins with seeing the trap for what it is, a psychological snare designed to use your own emotions against you. When someone tosses an insult your way, the real danger is not in the words they speak, but in the mental space you voluntarily hand over to them. If you walk past the comment without slowing your stride, the trap remains empty. If you pause, if you turn, if you argue, if you retaliate, then you have stepped straight into the net, and they have succeeded in pulling you into a conflict on their terms. Marcus Aurelius asked a question that should linger in the back of your mind. Every time someone tries to provoke you, why do we care more about the opinions of others than our own judgment of ourselves? He observed that humans tend to hold onto insults longer than compliments, not because the insults carry truth, but because we have not yet mastered the art of letting go. We replay cutting remarks in our minds as if they have earned the right to live there, even though most insults reveal far more about the speaker's wounds than about our worth. Stoic indifference, then, is not emotional numbness. It is not icy detachment. It is the conscious refusal to let cheap words take up expensive real estate in your mind. It is the decision to prevent your inner world from becoming a low-cost motel where anyone, no matter how disturbed or petty, can walk in, leave their baggage, and walk out without consequence. Indifference is the locked door, the boundary that says, your bitterness will not find a home here. Take, for instance, a situation that plays out in offices around the world. In a marketing firm preparing for a major product launch, a woman named Clara often presented new strategy ideas during weekly planning sessions. One colleague, Jordan, made it a habit to interrupt her mid-sentence, dismiss her suggestions with sarcastic remarks, or twist her ideas into something trivial. Week after week, the pattern continued. The smirk, the cutting tone, the just being honest excuse that accompanied every belittling comment. Others began to notice the tension and quietly awaited the explosion they assumed was inevitable. But Clara never exploded. She never raised her voice, never returned sarcasm with sarcasm, never allowed the bait to alter her pace. Each time Jordan cut her off, she paused long enough to let the room settle, acknowledged the interruption with a level, steady tone, and continued explaining her ideas with calm clarity. She chose not to descend into the emotional mud, and gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, the room began to shift. The more Jordan attempted to dominate the conversation, the more insecure he appeared. The more calmly Clara held her ground, the more respect she gained. People began to see the truth without Clara having to say a word. Those who shout are often unsettled. Those who remain steady are often anchored. This is the power of selective indifference. It does not hide emotion, it governs it. It does not suppress the urge to defend yourself. It evaluates whether the opponent is even worth a response. The Stoics understood that reacting to every provocation is like opening your windows during a storm. Not every gust of wind deserves entry. And so they imagined the difference between a wall and a shield. A wall blocks everything, good and bad, and stands motionless even when action is required. A shield, however, is held intentionally. It turns toward what matters and away from what doesn't. Stoic indifference is this shield. It filters without freezing. It protects without isolating. But there is a line, and it must be acknowledged with clarity. Indifference does not mean tolerating abuse. It does not mean accepting mistreatment for the sake of appearing composed. Stoicism is a philosophy of agency, not passivity. It teaches you to distinguish between real danger, which requires movement, boundaries, action, and petty provocation, which requires nothing more than the dignity of silence. The stillness of Stoic indifference is never meant to be a prison. It is a choice made from strength, not fear. In the end, the person who cannot be easily provoked becomes someone who cannot be easily controlled. The one who does not rise to every insult becomes the one who can. not be manipulated by them. When you master the art of indifference, you step off the stage where others try to cast you into conflict, and you rise into a space where your peace is no longer vulnerable to the noise around you. This is why Stoic indifference is freedom. Freedom from the traps built by insecure people, freedom from emotional puppet strings, and freedom from battles that were never worthy of your presence in the first place. And as we step into the next principle, a deeper layer emerges, the recognition that integrity, living rightly and steadily, creates a shield more powerful than silence alone, because it makes the very ground beneath your enemies crumble. Chapter 4, Virtue, the invisible shield that exhausts the wicked. We are living in an age where outrage is entertainment, where drama is a kind of currency, and where manipulation is often rewarded more quickly than honesty. In many environments, the person who shouts the loudest is mistaken for the most courageous, and the one who bends rules is celebrated as strategic rather than dishonest. Meanwhile, those who insist on acting with integrity, who refuse to gossip, refuse to cut corners, refuse to compromise their principles, are dismissed as naive or weak. It is a strange inversion of values, but one that has existed in every era. The world applauds the clever, even when their cleverness corrodes every room they enter. To the Stoics, this upside-down moral landscape is not surprising, nor is it discouraging. They understood that doing what is right is itself a quiet form of rebellion. In a world that rewards theatrics, restraint is radical. In a world that rewards deceit, honesty is defiance. And in a world that rewards aggression, virtue is a shield no malice can penetrate. Marcus Aurelius captured this ethos in a sentence so simple it almost seems too small. To contain the weight it carries, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. These words look delicate on the page, but living them with consistency requires a kind of strength most people never develop. They demand discipline in moments of temptation, clarity in moments of confusion, and courage in moments of pressure. Consider a situation that occurs more often than most people admit. A community volunteer named Meredith found herself the target of a quiet smear campaign. Someone within the organization twisted her comments, exaggerated her mistakes, and painted her as manipulative, precisely the behavior she had never once engaged in. Whispered accusations began to circulate, carried by the kind of people who thrive on scandal, regardless of its truth. The person behind the rumors expected Meredith to panic, to lash out, to defend herself in a way that made her appear guilty. They wanted her composure to crack, her reputation to cloud, her confidence to waver. But she did none of those things. She continued showing up early to every event, helping others with the same tenderness she always had, performing her responsibilities thoroughly and quietly. She did not retaliate with rumors of her own. She did not demand public vindication. She allowed her actions to become her response and her integrity to become her argument. Over time, the rumors lost their shine. Those who watched her day after day could no longer reconcile the accusations with the person standing before them. And when the truth finally surfaced, that the rumor maker had personal grievances and insecurities, it was not Meredith whose image had suffered. It was the instigator whose mask had slipped, revealing the dishonesty beneath. The Stoics believed that adversity is not merely an inconvenience, it is an examination. Seneca warned that without trials, even the strongest among us risk believing we are stronger than we truly are. Misfortune is the test, not the punishment. It is the forge that reveals the density of our character. Without opposition, without friction, without situations that tempt us toward compromise, we do not fully understand the strength or weakness of our principles. Virtue becomes real only when the world gives us reasons to abandon it. I recall a moment, a deeply personal one, that mirrors this teaching. Years ago, I stood in a room where a wrongdoing had occurred, one that harmed people silently and unfairly. I knew the truth, others knew the truth, but the environment was suffocating with pressure. To stay quiet, silence, I was told, would protect my relationships, preserve my professional reputation, and keep me on the right side of those in power. It would have been easy, so easy, to nod, fold my principles into my pocket, and pretend not to see what I saw. Safety was just a single compromise away, but that compromise came with a cost I could not accept. And so I spoke up. Not with anger, not with theatrics, but with clarity. The fallout came quickly. Certain opportunities vanished. Certain people withdrew. Certain doors closed. Yet, in the stillness that followed, I realized something profound. I had lost a few conveniences, but I had kept something far rarer: my ability to look myself in the mirror without flinching. I had chosen integrity over comfort, and the peace that followed was worth infinitely more than the safety I forfeited. This is why the wicked grow discouraged in the presence of virtue. Their strategies depend on dragging you into their mud, their noise, their half-truths. They need you to break so they can justify their own brokenness. They need you to compromise so they can point and say, "See, no one is truly good." When you refuse to descend to their level, when you act with a steadiness they cannot imitate or manipulate, their entire strategy begins to crumble. They cannot intimidate you. They cannot provoke you. They cannot control you. And worst of all, for them, they cannot pull you into the darkness where they feel most comfortable. Virtue is not fragility. Virtue is will sharpened into steel. It is the quiet force that stands tall when others bend. It is the invisible shield that makes dishonest people tire themselves out. It is the slow, steady light that outlasts every shadow cast in your direction. And as we move forward, we come to another truth. Behind every disciplined life lies a silent engine, one fueled not by talent or luck, but by the relentless, unglamorous power of daily discipline. Chapter 5: Silent Discipline. When your results speak louder than any argument, there's a kind of power that does not announce itself with declarations, victories, or confrontations. It moves quietly, almost invisibly, through the early hours of the morning and the late hours of the night. It takes the shape of decisions no one witnesses, small choices, repeated consistently, that stack upon each other until they form the foundation of a life that cannot be shaken. This power is discipline, and it is the single force most feared by those who hope you will fail. People who resent you are not intimidated by your first attempts. They are not threatened when you start something new, when you talk about your goals, or when you make your initial progress. Anyone can burst forward with enthusiasm. What unsettles them is the realization that you are not stopping, that while they gossip, you practice, while they complain, you improve, while they recycle the same excuses, you accumulate quiet victories. They are not afraid of the gunshot that begins the race. They are afraid of the unwavering rhythm of your steps long after the crowd has stopped watching. Epictetus captured the essence of discipline with a clarity that cuts through centuries. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. It sounds simple, even obvious, but hidden within this instruction is a profound truth. Discipline is not the pursuit of a dream. It is the construction of a destiny. The moment you decide who you will become, your daily actions become the proof or the betrayal of that decision. Discipline is the silent signature on every hour that moves you closer to the person you said you would be. Think, for a moment, about the lives built in silence. A violinist named Renan spent years practicing in a cramped apartment, bowing through the same passages until his arms trembled. Even though no audience waited, no applause encouraged him, and no promise of recognition assured him that any of it was worth it. In another city, a young novelist named Avellini sat each night at her kitchen table, drafting stories that no publisher had ever requested, revising pages that no reader had yet seen, shaping worlds that existed only in her mind. Both faced doubt, both wondered if their efforts mattered, and yet both persisted, quietly, steadily, without spectacle. Years passed, and the silence blossomed. Renan was invited to perform with orchestras that once seemed impossibly distant. Aveline's manuscripts, rejected dozens of times, eventually found a home, and her books touched readers who had never met her but felt understood by her words. The people who once dismissed their dedication as foolish or obsessive suddenly fell silent, forced to stand in the shadow cast by the very achievements they once mocked. The results spoke with a voice no insult could drown out. Discipline had done its work, and it had done it with elegance. This is the paradox of success. It is built long before anyone sees it. Discipline prepares you not only to reach the summit, but to stand firmly once you get there. Achievement gained without discipline collapses under its own weight, but achievement built upon discipline becomes unshakable. Each time you continue when no one is watching, each time you choose consistency over comfort. Each time you move forward despite boredom, exhaustion, or doubt, you strengthen the invisible architecture within yourself, the structure that holds up everything else in your life. Let your discipline speak through the way you carry yourself, through the calm confidence in your eyes, through the precision and quality of the work you deliver. Let every task you finish, every promise you keep, every skill you refine become a sentence in the story you are writing, one that needs no boast or justification, because the ultimate victory is not proving someone wrong. It is becoming someone so consistent, so capable, and so disciplined that your very existence invalidates every doubt, every rumor, and every insult thrown your way. And as you walk this path, quietly building, quietly rising, remember that you are not alone in the pursuit of a stronger mind and a more disciplined life. If the Stoic lessons in this journey resonate with you, consider joining the True Stoic Way by subscribing to the channel. It helps these messages reach others who are fighting the same silent battles, and it strengthens a community built on resilience, clarity, and action. Now, with discipline established as the engine of transformation, we move to the next truth, the role of adversity, the fire that tempers the metal of your character and reveals to the world and to yourself what you are truly made of. Chapter 6, Adversity, the forge that hurts your enemies the most. There's a particular kind of anticipation that grows in the hearts of those who resent you. They watch your life from the shadows, not to admire your progress, but to track the moments when you falter. They wait for the day your job dissolves beneath you, for the relationship you invested in to fall apart, for the dream you fought for to collapse under its own weight. They do not wish these things upon you out of ambition or competition, but out of a quiet, bitter desire to feel superior. Your suffering becomes the balm for their insecurities, the justification for their stagnation, the reassurance that life is not unfairly generous to them. Your misfortune is a kind of spectacle, a moment where they can finally breathe easier because the gap between your life and theirs momentarily closes. But there is a twist they never anticipate, one that turns their satisfaction into discomfort. The moment you use adversity as fuel instead of defeat, the moment you treat hardship not as a verdict, but as an opportunity for expansion. When you walk through adversity with the posture of someone training in a mental gym, the pleasure they hope to extract from your suffering evaporates. They wanted to watch you fall apart. Instead, they are forced to witness your transformation. Picture a night when everything falls apart, a night where betrayal steals your trust, where public failure stains your reputation, where a personal loss rips open the quiet places of your heart. The kind of night when you sit alone wondering how a life you built with such care could unravel so quickly. The world becomes smaller, the air heavier, and hope feels like a distant memory. Those who dislike you lean in at this moment. They imagine you staggering under the weight. They imagine you breaking. They imagine you disappearing into the darkness that has swallowed so many others. But you do not break, you bend. Yes, because bending is human. But you bend like the reed that bows during the storm, only to rise again once the wind passes. You gather the fragments of your life not with desperation, but with determination. The pain becomes a sculptor, shaping you into someone deeper, sharper, more resilient than before. What was meant to shatter you instead strengthens your core. You walk through the wreckage, not untouched, but undefeated. Marcus Aurelius captured this transformation in one of his most profound observations. What stands in the way becomes the way. The Stoics believe that obstacles do not block the path. They are the path. Every hardship you encounter is an invitation to a different version of yourself, a version you cannot access through comfort or ease. Adversity asks for your patience, your courage, and your willingness to keep moving even when every step feels heavy. It demands that you become someone capable of withstanding the unpredictable nature of life without collapsing under it. Resilience, in its truest form, is not the absence of pain. It is the ability to continue walking while pain walks beside you. It is the ability to hold your posture when your heart feels like it is caving in. It is the decision, the daily, quiet, stubborn decision, to take one more step when giving up would be simpler. Each time you rise, even if you rise slowly, even if you rise trembling, you grow new roots beneath the soil. These roots anchor you more firmly than before, connecting you to a strength you did not know you possessed. Consider a woman named Leora. who endured a season of profound loss. Within a single year, she lost her job during a downsizing, ended a long-term relationship that had once seemed destined for marriage, and saw a creative project she had invested years into dissolve without recognition. People who disliked her whispered predictions of her downfall, the apartment she would lose, the confidence she would never regain, the future she would never build. They checked her social media, waiting for the cracks to show. They waited for the day she would disappear from the spaces where she once thrived. But Leora continued to appear, quietly, consistently, and without theatrics. She took temporary work while rebuilding her skills. She learned to sit with her grief without letting it drown her. She returned to her creative practices with a patience she never had before. Day after day, she moved forward, not dramatically, not flawlessly, but faithfully. Eventually, the whispers died, the predictions faded. Her enemies realized something that filled them with discomfort. They could tolerate her pain, but they could not stomach her recovery. Watching her hurt satisfied their envy. Watching her rise shattered it. Seneca wrote, "Fire tests gold, adversity tests brave men." The fires of life do not burn you simply to cause destruction. They burn to reveal the purity of what remains. Adversity is the architect of your unbreakable self. It constructs within you a strength that cannot be obtained through success alone. Success teaches you pride. Adversity teaches you depth. And it is depth, not accomplishment, that truly destabilizes those who hoped you would fall. Suffering, then, is not a sentence. It is a summons. It calls you to become someone more capable, more aware, more grounded. And though pain is an unwilling teacher, it teaches lessons nothing else can: endurance, humility, clarity, and an unshakable sense of identity. Your task in the presence of adversity is simple, though never easy: to endure, to grow, to continue. For in the end, your rise becomes the most eloquent response imaginable, a silent testament that no insult, no rumor, no betrayal, and no hardship can dictate the destiny of someone who refuses to kneel. Now that we have seen how adversity forges resilience, we turn to a power even quieter and even more unsettling to those who try to control you: the disciplined silence that unravels manipulation without uttering a single word. Chapter 7: Selective Silence. When not responding becomes the sharpest counterattack. We live in an age where noise has become a form of currency. Everyone rushes to speak, to react, to comment, to assert themselves into every conversation, every conflict, every controversy. Silence, in this world, is misunderstood, not as a choice, but as weakness. People demand immediate responses, instant explanations, and instant emotion. They confuse urgency with importance, believing that a delayed answer must be a dishonest one, and that the loudest voice must be the most truthful. In such a landscape, the discipline of silence becomes not just rare, it becomes threatening, because silence forces people to confront themselves. When an insult is hurled, when your words are twisted, when your character is attacked in front of others, the world expects you to snap. The audience leans in, anticipating the explosion that confirms their hunger for drama. They expect you to shout, to argue, to defend every detail, to justify your worth under pressure. They want to witness the unraveling. But imagine, instead, standing there with your spine straight, your gaze steady, your breath calm. Imagine choosing not to react, not to explain, not to dignify the accusation with a response. In that moment, the silence becomes louder than any defense you could offer. Epictetus warned that the moment you begin living for the approval of others, you have already sacrificed your integrity. The discipline of silence is the refusal to make that trade. It is the statement, clearer than any speech, that your peace is not negotiable, your dignity is not performative, and your truth does not need anyone's applause to remain true. Selective silence is not avoidance, it is sovereignty. It is the conscious decision to remain the guardian of your inner world, even when the outer world pulls at you with claws of provocation. Consider the story of a school teacher named Rowan, who was falsely accused during a heated disagreement between parents in his community. The rumor spread quickly, ignited by those who wanted a villain, and Rowan was painted as someone he had never been. Voices rose, posts circulated, people demanded he clear his name publicly. They wanted him to look desperate, panicked, defensive. They wanted the spectacle, But Rowan did not perform. He continued teaching with the same care, greeting students with the same patience, showing up each day with quiet consistency. He did not post statements or counterattacks. He trusted time to reveal what panic often obscures. Weeks passed, and as the noise died down, inconsistencies in the accusations started to surface. The loudest critics contradicted themselves. The supposed evidence began to crumble. Eventually, the truth stood alone, unforced, unannounced. The voices that once nearly drowned him out fell silent, not because he defeated them in argument, but because they defeated themselves in the echo of their own noise. Rowan's silence became the mirror that exposed their falsehoods. Silence, when used intentionally, becomes a strategic force. When someone attacks you and you choose not to respond, they are left alone with the weight of their own aggression. Their words rebound against the emptiness. Their attempts to provoke you fall into a void where nothing returns. They swing and swing, only to realize they are punching at shadows. When you refuse to play the game ends, because you were the prize they needed, not the opponent they feared. In conversations, silence performs another function. It reveals. When you remain quiet, you watch people unfold. Some fill the silence with arrogance, mistaking your restraint for inferiority. Others begin to show cracks of insecurity as they try to justify their own behavior. Without being questioned, some reveal their true intentions, unable to endure the lack of reaction. Silence, in dialogue, is both a lantern and a mirror. It lights what was hidden and reflects what was disguised. With enough practice, silence becomes more than a reaction. It becomes a presence, a force, a soft but undeniable gravitational pull that causes others to adjust themselves around you. It becomes a shield that protects your peace, a signal that clarifies your boundaries, and a quiet power that does not need to announce itself to be felt. Selective silence is the Stoic's answer to a noisy world. It frees you from the tyranny of other people's expectations and gives you a kind of power that manipulation cannot harness. When used with discernment, silence becomes not just the absence of words, but the presence of mastery. And now, as we move forward into the next principle, we explore a power even more difficult to fake, and even more destabilizing to those who thrive on deception: the strength of integrity, the alignment between what you believe, what you say, and how you live. Chapter 8: Living with Integrity, Breaking the Game of the Mask Wearers. There's a kind of strength that does not roar, does not boast, and does not demand to be recognized. It is not loud or dramatic, and it rarely appears impressive at first glance. Yet it has a power that unsettles manipulators, deceivers, and pretenders more deeply than any confrontation ever could. That strength is integrity, the alignment between your values, your words, and your actions. Not perfection, but congruence. Not purity, but consistency. It is the quiet decision to remain who you are even when no one is watching, even when compromise would be easier, even when hypocrisy would be rewarded. Integrity begins where performance ends. It is easy to appear kind when kindness offers something in return. It is easy to act honorable when honor is profitable. It is easy to pretend to be a good person when the room is watching. When social praise lies just one gesture away. Seneca warned against this superficial morality, reminding us that true goodness is noble both in crowded halls and in empty rooms. Anyone, he implied, can act virtuous when virtue is convenient. The difference between a good actor and a good person is revealed only when the stage lights dim and applause disappears. Integrity is the quiet no spoken when saying yes would smooth your path. It is choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. It is resisting corruption not because you fear getting caught, but because you cannot betray the person you are trying to become. Integrity is the inner compass that does not change direction based on who stands beside you or who pressures you to bend. And in a world where masks are common and incentives for deception are abundant, alignment becomes a form of rebellion. Consider the story of a hospital administrator named Gabriel. Over the years, he found himself surrounded by offers from pharmaceutical representatives, contractors, and influential community members, gifts, vacations, consulting incentives, and subtle promises of special treatment if he approved certain deals. Many of his peers accepted these opportunities without hesitation, rationalizing them as industry norms. Some even mocked Gabriel for turning them down, accusing him of being outdated, overly strict, or naive. But he refused, not with grand declarations or moral superiority, but with quiet clarity. He signed only the contracts that served the hospital's mission. He declined every personal favor. He treated every patient record with the same confidentiality, whether the patient was a stranger or a friend. Years passed. Administrations changed. Scandals surfaced, scandals linked to those who had once mocked his rigidity. Some lost their positions. Others lost their reputations. Meanwhile, Gavriel's name became synonymous with trust. People sought his leadership not because he was perfect, but because he was consistent. The temptations he had quietly resisted had long been forgotten by those who offered them, but the integrity he protected became a legacy others relied on. Marcus Aurelius captured the essence of this path in one of his simplest and most radical commands. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. The world does not need your explanations, your debates, or your speeches about morality. It needs your example. It needs the living embodiment of your values, not the performance of them. Integrity is not a theory, it is a posture. It is demonstrated in choices, not discussions. And yet, living with integrity does not come without cost. It will take from you the shortcuts others enjoy. It will cost you certain relationships, those built on convenience rather than respect. It will cost you time, opportunities, and the praise of those who mistake cunning for intelligence. But what it gives you in return is something no amount of strategic compromise can purchase. The ability to sleep without fear that your secrets will surface. The confidence that no rumor, no accusation, no investigation can reveal anything you have hidden, because you have hidden nothing. Integrity frees you from the exhausting duty of maintaining a facade. This is why integrity unsettles those who rely on deception. They cannot manipulate you, because you are not playing the same game. They cannot intimidate you, because you are not hiding anything. They cannot control you, because your values, not their pressure, dictate your actions. When you refuse to descend into the mud with them, their entire strategy collapses. They wanted to challenge you on a battlefield built from lies, but you lead them to a ground where they cannot stand. Truth. You do not hurt them by mirroring their behavior. You hurt them by refusing to adopt it. You wound them not by striking, but by staying whole. You expose their masks not by tearing them off, but by remaining unmasked yourself. In your consistency, they see their inconsistency. In your alignment, they recognize their fragmentation. And in your quiet adherence to principle, they realize, often painfully, that they cannot win a war against someone who refuses to become like them. And now, we step into the final transformation, one of the most challenging and misunderstood Stoic powers, the ability to forgive, not as surrender, but as liberation. Chapter 9, Forgiveness, the final blow that severs the bond with those who hurt you. There are wounds that do not bleed, wounds that leave no visible mark, yet weigh on the chest like a stone pressed down by years of memory. Betrayal is one of them. At first, the pain feels almost sacred, a reminder that you once trusted, once loved, once believed someone to be safer than they truly were. But over time, the pain transforms. What was once evidence of your capacity to care becomes a chain that binds you to the very person who inflicted the injury. You carry the memory everywhere, polishing it unconsciously, replaying the moment again and again, as if repeated suffering could somehow balance a scale that was never fair to begin with. Meanwhile, the person who caused the pain sleeps soundly. They are not awake at 2 a.m., replaying your conversations. They are not revisiting the moment they betrayed you. They are not haunted by the scene that plays in your mind like an unending reel. They live. They move on. They laugh. They forget. And that imbalance, that cruel asymmetry, is the reason resentment drains you so deeply. You keep burning, long after they've walked away from the fire. Every replay of the memory adds fuel. Every moment of rumination keeps the flame alive. Forgiveness, then, is not a moral gesture offered to the other person. It is the act of depriving the fire of its oxygen. It is the refusal to let the pain continue its work on your soul. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. And forgiveness is the moment you stop letting an event outside of you continue to rule the world inside you. To understand forgiveness in the Stoic sense, it is crucial to dismantle the myths surrounding it. Forgiveness is not returning to a relationship that proved itself unsafe. It is not blindly trusting someone who demonstrated they cannot hold trust with care. It is not pretending the wound did not happen or forcing yourself into artificial neutrality. Forgiveness is the sober decision to say, I acknowledge what happened, I accept its lesson, but I will not let this wound define or distort me any longer. Forgiveness is not a single moment of grace. It is not a switch flipped in the heart. It is a discipline, an ongoing practice of loosening your grip on resentment one day at a time. It is remembering the event without feeling the fire of it rise in your chest. It is choosing, consistently and deliberately, to stop poisoning yourself with thoughts meant to punish someone else. Like any discipline, forgiveness requires repetition. You train your mind to release what no longer serves you, just as you would train a muscle to release tension it has held for far too long. And as the process deepens, something subtle but profound begins to occur. Your mind grows lighter. Your energy returns. The person who once occupied so much internal space begins to shrink into a memory without emotional weight. You wake one morning and realize that their name, once heavy like iron, now feels hollow, like an echo from a chamber you've already left behind. And this is what wounds those who hurt you more deeply than any retaliation. The realization that they no longer matter. They lose the power they once enjoyed, not because you punished them, but because you stopped allowing them to occupy your inner world. This is why forgiveness is protection, not for them, but for you. Hatred is a corrosive force that reshapes the soul of the one who holds it. It distorts perception, bends your values, and tempts you to behave like the very person you resented. Hate does not burn cleanly. It burns indiscriminately. It consumes the vessel that contains it. Stoic forgiveness ensures that you do not become a mirror of the person who harmed you. It keeps your character intact, your identity unwarped by the ugliness of the experience. In the end, forgiveness becomes the final shield, the one that cannot be pierced. When you forgive, you are no longer bound to the story that once suffocated you. You are no longer tied to the person who tried to break you. Your spirit steps out of the old narrative and into the present with clarity. You become steadier, quieter, freer. The arrows they once shot at you have nowhere left to land. The hooks they once used to pull you back have nothing left to grip. Forgiveness releases you from the past and denies your enemies the satisfaction of knowing they still live inside your mind. It is the final victory, not loud, not dramatic, but profound. The kind of victory that feels like taking a deep breath after years of holding it in. The kind that turns the page without tearing it. The kind that frees the soul to move forward unburdened, unbound, and untouchable. And with this final principle, the Stoic journey comes full circle. You preserve your peace. You guard your calmness. You wield your discipline. You stand tall in adversity. You remain whole in your integrity. And finally, you release the past that tried to hold you. Forgiveness is not surrender. Forgiveness is freedom. There comes a point in every journey when words no longer need to raise their volume, when strength no longer needs to announce itself, and when character becomes its own form of speech. You do not need to shout to prove you have grown. You do not need to argue to prove you are right. You do not need to bend to prove you are kind. Your life, lived with steadiness, with discipline, with calmness, with integrity, with resilience, with forgiveness, becomes the quiet but undeniable testimony of who you have become. Long before anyone acknowledges your transformation, long before those who doubted you finally see your strength, long before the people who tried to wound you run out of ways to reach you, your life will already be speaking. Every time you choose composure over reaction, every time you choose effort over excuses, every time you choose clarity over drama, every time you choose to rise instead of break, your life keeps writing a story that cannot be debated. It is a story written in behaviors, not arguments, in choices, not explanations. And as this journey reaches its final words, there is a truth worth carrying with you. You owe them nothing, not an apology for outgrowing them, not an explanation for protecting your peace, not a performance to satisfy their expectations. You do not owe anyone your calmness when they try to provoke you. You do not owe anyone your clarity when they try to confuse you. You do not owe anyone your thunder when silence serves you better. The only debt you carry, the only sacred responsibility, is to yourself, to build a life that is bright without needing to be loud, deep without needing to be dramatic, and unshakable without needing to be defended. You owe yourself a life that reflects the person you are becoming, not the person others tried to convince you to be. Your peace, your growth, your discipline, your compassion, and your boundaries are not gifts handed to the world. They are the architecture of a life lived with intention. So let this be your vow moving forward. Rise higher, not to impress, not to retaliate, not to prove anything to those who doubted you, but because rising is the natural direction of a mind committed to clarity. Keep rising, quietly, steadily, relentlessly. And if these lessons resonate with the place you're standing in right now, if this journey has strengthened you, steadied you, or simply reminded you of what you already knew deep down, consider joining the true Stoic way. Subscribe not as a transaction, but as a quiet commitment to your own path of becoming. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who rise with intention, more people who embody strength calmly, more people who choose depth over drama, discipline over chaos, integrity over convenience, forgiveness over bitterness. If that is the life you wanted to build, then you are already walking the right road. And the road is long, but you are capable, you are ready, and you are rising. Keep rising.